Hello and welcome to another How I Play That. Today we're going to be having a look at the Psychic Ritual and the way that I like to play it in my Death Guard army. Now, I already mentioned basically the same thing I'm going to show you in one of my long Death Guard reviews that I did, but I just want to focus on this today. So I like Psychic Ritual for the Death Guard because it's generally, I think, a good one for Chaos armies of any variety, because Demon Princes are basically the perfect unit to go for the Psychic Ritual. The reason for this is not only can they be hidden, but they're really tough when, even if they're faced with something like sniper type weapons. They're not something that a Vindicare assassin or squad of eliminators are going to be able to get rid of very easily, like a normal Chaos Sorcerer would be, where there's just 4 wounds, 3+ save, no invulnerable, that sort of thing. Demon Prince, he's got 8 wounds. He's got a 5+ invulnerable save. He could have various other relics and upgrades on him if he wanted to. And in the case of the Death Guard, he's also -1 damage. So he's absolutely perfect for Psychic Ritual. I think that this is a very strong one to go for Chaos. And the reason I think that it's one of my favourites to go for is just because if you do it right, it's 15 victory points. It's one of the better secondaries you can go for, in my opinion. Most of the time with the other secondaries, you'll end up only getting 10 or 12 or 8 or something. This, if you pull it off, it's an all or nothing. If you fail, you don't get anything. But if you pull it off, it's 15, and that's really good. So what I like to do personally is just overcommit to this particular secondary, get the 15 victory points, and then you've got 2 other secondaries that you can choose from that are more passive. Maybe they're like grind them down and bring it down, so you get points as you kill people over the game. Maybe they're your own Death Guard ones, just for covering the board or contaminating objectives, and of course primaries. But I don't like to have to really think about more than one specific objective at a time, and I can dedicate to that, and then have the others as like I said, more passive. So you just get them as you play the game and kill things and that kind of thing. Now, you could do this in a variety of ways. I've certainly done it in a variety of ways, but the combination I like from this Death Guard Codex is using a Demon Prince and 3 Mephitic Blighthaulers. Now, what we need to do is have this as Poxmongers, a Poxmongers detachment, and this Demon Prince will have the Ironclot Furnace relic. That's the main deal that's important to this. Depending on if you know what you're playing, if they have snipers and that sort of things, you might want to also make him the Warlord and give him a nice Warlord trait that will help his survivability, maybe Revoltingly Resilient for the 5+, or maybe Hulking Physique and that sort of thing. But that's up to you. If you're not even facing an army that has many things like snipers, then he's probably fine without additional things like that. But this point here is the centre of the board. This is the 24 inches. This is a 6x4 table, we're assuming. So if you're playing on a one of the new smaller sizes, then you'll probably have an even easier job of getting this done than I'm going to have. But we're showing it on a 6x4 table. So this is 24 inches in, across the 48 inches. It might not look it on the screen due to the angle, but this here, up here behind the back of the Demon Prince, is the edge of the table. The top of your screen is the edge of the table. So this is the 24-inch section here. And then here are the markers for the 6-inch radius from the centre of the table that you need to be within to use Psychic Ritual. Now, you can do this without advancing. You could advance if you wanted to really make sure, but we're assuming here I'm deployed 12 inches out, so this Mephitic Blighthaller is 12 inches. The Demon Prince obviously a few more inches back behind him. You can do this without advancing, but if you wanted to, it's not, you could sacrifice their shooting. I don't think they're very good anyway. I will say right now, I think they're massively overpointed. I actually don't like this unit. I think they're trash in terms of points for effectiveness unit, because their guns are just not good enough to justify the points. But this may be the one time I would actually use them, because they're reasonably survivable, especially when you start stacking things. So they're too expensive at 140 points. This is an expensive little unit here, but it's I think that it's not bad if we're thinking about this tactic specifically. But they have a movement of 10 inches, so you can take this first one, you can move him 10 inches to here, and then of course you move these other 2 up here. And the Demon Prince now, I'm assuming that he has wings. You don't have to have wings. He has a movement value of 8 without wings. It would mean that you have to advance, and if you rolled a 1, you know, it's a bit iffy. I'd prefer to just give him, you know, a movement of 10 to begin with, because then even again, without advancing 10 inches from this point, it is enough just to get him within. He doesn't have to be wholly within. The wording is not wholly within. You just have to be within 6 inches of the edge. So this is good enough. At this point, the Demon Prince, he's in. This is turn 1. He can begin Psychic Ritual. Now, obviously, if you've gone second, this squad may have taken some damage before you were able to do much to it. In that case, you know, it might change your battle plan a little bit. But I'm going to do a second video in a minute as a follow-up to this immediately, where I sort of show the rest of the army and what I will be doing with the rest of my army during this. So hopefully, even if something does go wrong and you don't get the first turn and you take some damage, you could still repair it. But we're going to just assume that it's gone well for you, and this is your turn 1. So you're already on. The Demon Prince now, Psychic Ritual is cast on a 3+, I'm pretty sure. So that's quite easy to cast. You can always spend a CP to reroll it. You probably won't fail it a second time. Now, what do you do at this point when they're sat here? Because obviously, they're now right in the middle of the board, probably fairly close to the enemy. Now, you might be lucky and be fighting an opponent that doesn't want to get close to you anyway. You might be fighting an army that just wants to shoot you, like Tau or Marines or something. But if you are fighting a more combat-based army, you know, it's definitely a rough position to be in. And even if you're not, people are going to be getting their nice close, you know, rapid fire range weapons on you now, so it's not a great position to be in. So why do I think that I go for the Mephitic Blighthauler as well? Firstly, the Ironclop Furnace affects a unit, so if you had something like Bloat Drones or Plague Burst Crawlers, it would just work on one of them. But because this is a unit of Mephitic Blighthaulers, all 3 of them are the same unit, so when he uses his Ironclop Furnace, this whole squad will get a 4+ invulnerable save. Now, I've played it enough to know that having a 4+ invulnerable save on these guys is really frustrating to get through. They're -1 damage, of course, because of their own special rule. And then what I would do at this point is I'd spend 2 command points and I would use Belching Fumes. Now, what that does is it -1 from the weapons profile of anything shot at it. So if it's, you know, an autocannon, instead of being 2 shots, it would be 1 shot. If it was a heavy bolter, it would be 2 shots instead of 3 shots. Of course, in both of those cases, you'd be reducing damage 2 to damage 1, so that's perfect. And even if it was, you know, a battle cannon or something that had, you know, heavy D6 and they rolled a 5, that's now 4, that's good enough. And then it's D3 damage, -1, you know, most likely 1 damage again, maybe 2. So it's pretty solid. I think that's a really good stratagem. It's going to make these guys really tough to shift. 4+ invulnerable save, -1 damage, -1 shot coming in towards them. And of course, what you want to do, whether you do it with another Demon Prince that you have, you know, less important in the background, maybe the real Warlord Demon Prince who's doing a better job of supporting your army, or maybe just a Malignant Plaguecaster who's running around. What you want to do also, of course, is get Miasma of Pestilence off on this unit. You just want to get Miasma of Pestilence off on this unit, goes off on a 7, perfect, hopefully it doesn't get dispelled. And then the -1 to hit as well. Now this, it's far from an invincible unit, but I think that as far as turn 1 goes, you know, there's 8 wounds apiece, 8 wounds a model, 3 models, -1 to hit, 4+ invulnerable save, -1 shot, -1 damage. This is going to be really tough for somebody to shift turn 1, I think. The Demon Prince himself is pretty tough. He should be able to stand up to some punishment, even if you maybe do suffer a little bit. What I would do in this situation is I would take away the front guy. If, you know, once some damage came in, if one was destroyed, I would take away the front one. Obviously, you'd need to deploy these guys, make sure they're within 2 inches. I haven't done a good job in the video, but for your purposes, make sure that these are 2 inches together as well. And then he's still further back than these two, so whether the shots come in from the side or from the front, it's still the closer unit, whereas if you took something away like this, then, you know, potentially people could start getting the Demon Prince, or even in this case, the front one's still closer. So that's up to you. What I'm going to do now is come back pretty much straight away in a follow-up video and show you, how I'd use the rest of my army to really cement this in. But this is just a quick one for now. And you know what? Since I'm here, let's roll some dice since I'm here before I come back in the next video and follow on from this tactic. Let's just assume I've got 10 las cannons. This is 10 las cannons from some ridiculous Space Marine weapon, you know, the Repulsor or something. It's got about 20 las cannons stuck on it. So let's just assume there's 10 las cannons coming in now. You know, they're going to hit on 4s. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They've got a captain for re-rolling 1s. Nope. Then they're going to wound on 3s. No lieutenant rerolls there, unfortunately. Then you've only got 4 wounds to anyway. 4+ invulnerable saves. That was a 5. You've made 3 of them. 1's gone through. How much is the damage? 2 turned to 1. That was terrible. Point is, 10 las cannons did nothing. This is going to be a really tough unit to shift turn 1. And even if somebody charges you, even if you start getting the charge, the fact that this is the Poxmongers detachment means that all Death Guard vehicles can fire in combat without suffering the -1 penalty for heavy weapons. And because they're Poxmongers, you can spend a CP on the stratagem, which allows them to fire even blast weapons in close combat and gives them +1 to hit. So at this point, you know, per model you'll have 2 multi-motor shots and a missile launcher shot in combat, hitting on 2s. That's, you know, it's going to be pretty scary, I think, for anybody who charges them anyway. So they're definitely a very solid unit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight back now and follow up with the rest of an army.